Welcome to this podcast episode in which we will be looking at the topic of meaningful business. My name is Dr. Alex Altersky from the School for Business and Society at the University of York. A warm welcome to my guest, Elspeth Gilfillan, founder of Fillanthropic Consulting. Welcome.
Good morning, Alex.
Hi, how are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you. Beautiful day.
Lovely day, thank you. So, let's get straight to it then. Thank you very much for joining us. Can you tell me a little bit about, first, what you do and your journey into doing it?
I can. So I fell into fundraising many years ago with a job at the NSPCC, a job I didn't know I wanted, and a career I didn't know I wanted, and found that I was good at fundraising and making relationships with donors and corporates and trusts to a point where I followed that career. Ultimately, I have worked with lots of different organisations with many different social impacts, and I have now got to a point in my career where I started my own business as a consultant back here in Yorkshire, having lived around the country, to help more charities, social impact organisations to have a greater impact. And so, it's been a wonderful career, hopefully, that is meaningful.
So just obviously, as I do, I kind of internet stalk my guests on this podcast, and looking at some of the work you've done. You worked with the Cambodian Children's Fund.
That's one of my current clients that I'm working with. It's interestingly, actually, an NGO that was introduced, that I was introduced to by one of my major donors. So whilst I was working at the University of Nottingham, a major donor, they often have lots of different interests, and he asked the university to look at the Cambodian Children's Fund. When I left Nottingham, I ended up becoming involved with that charity in my own right as well. So I'm not just working for them, I'm also a donor to them as well.
Fantastic. And then going on, something close to my heart, Factory International, and I'm of an age where I'm a big fan of the Happy Mondays, etc., etc. Yeah. So I was thinking, is this connected?
It is in a I suppose an intellectual capacity more than a really tangible capacity. So Factory was born out of Manchester International Festival, and that was its first name for what was going to be the building that has now risen from the ashes of Granada Studios. And Factory International is an arts organisation working really at that very creative end, the sort of modern creative end of the arts, really trying to push boundaries. But it was about, again, linking back to the name Factory, being in Manchester, being born of that creative juices of doing something different slightly on that independent scale. And it's now become Aviva Studios, so actually supported by a company here in York. Fascinating project to work on, which was to help raise the capital resources to make sure the building went up.
Fantastic. I could just imagine, Sean Ryder and Bez being in there,
I think they, to some extent, I think they have been invited. They probably have been on private tours and things.
Yeah.
I don't think they've yet performed, as far as I'm aware.
Yeah. Definitely. So obviously this podcast series is about meaningful business, and we're talking about fundraising and philanthropy linked to what you do. What's the connection there, really?
So I think that there's, in terms of me and my own business, my business in its very nature has to be meaningful, because I'm helping other organisations to, particularly charities, to deliver more. And to deliver more social impact, literally by raising more money so they can go out and do more work. So that's sort of a basic premise for what I do. So I help charities and NGOs and other organisations strategically think about how best they can fundraise in particular. But I also have an interest in terms of this particular network, because there is a gap to be bridged between how businesses operate in this sphere and how they work with charities, NGOs, other social impact organisations to make that meaningful bit even more meaningful. So there is, I believe, a disconnect between business and that sort of philanthropic side of life, because they're focusing on business and need help to navigate and understand and translate that world between charity and business and the natural, I suppose, differences in focus that come between a very profit-driven world to a very impact-driven world. And so I have an interest in not just the fundraising, but bridging that gap.
Yeah, really interesting. So I suppose, businesses, they have CSR policies, they have kind of, ethics, etc., etc. So is this just tapping into the CSR policies of businesses, or is this different to that?
I think it has to be. I think there is a natural requirement for business and charity to push the boundaries of not just considering what were CSR policies and now ESG policies, is what is the best development we can take that. So it was CSR, then probably still is now to some people. ESG seems to have taken over as the acronym, and it still feels to me like it's a bit of a bolt-on to many businesses' operation, which is natural. Businesses are born out of the need to make profit, whether for private owners or shareholders or whomever, and to deliver the best products or services that they can. There does seem to be, which I'm delighted to see, a growing interest in really values-driven organisations and businesses, which allows those CSR and ESG policies actually to have more of an impact and to have really more of a say of how the business is run. And I think that these are sort of quite big philosophical and economic systems-driven conversations, which we won't solve today, but might be able to explore a little. Is we're living in a capitalist society, and we're in a situation where 1% of the richest people in the world own 43% of the world's financial assets, which is basically more than 95% of the rest of the world. So capitalism has taken us so far to a point where the world is completely imbalanced and is increasingly going that way. I know that, more and more, everybody knows this, more and more billionaires and, the top elite are taking up more and more of the resources and encouraging us all to consume more all of the time. And it's not sustainable. So we have a challenge right now to think, is capitalism as it currently is the right structure? I don't know that what the best option is. There's structures like conscious capitalism and entrepreneurial capitalism or other. We can look at elements of capitalism but balance it with other things. And I think that's where the Meaningful Business Network, that's where it's looking at. And I think that there needs to potentially be a fundamental shift in how world economies assume we should be working.
So is philanthropy one of the solutions to these issues?
I think philanthropy has always been there as part of a civil society. You look back to the founding of cathedrals, thousands of years ago. They were built by individual individual private money, partly on the back of the impact for them, not just being so that everybody can have the chance to see a beautiful building and hear the word of God or whatever it may be, but also obviously for their own benefit, which is on the other side of things. But it's always been there. It's just the balance of how much philanthropy should be there to create the social impact that is left by a system or a structure that's not delivering it. So we find that in times of austerity, food banks have to go up and all the things that we've been seeing. And this is a cyclical thing. And so philanthropy has its place. I think that people get nervous when philanthropy has to take such a big role that they feel actually our civil society should be doing that at more of a government level. And there's pros and cons of each. So I don't know that there is a balance. You can say it should be 60-40 or 85-15. I don't know that there is that answer, but we should be aware it goes in cycles.
Yeah. No, really interesting. So, in terms of the work that you do, you're talking about donors. Is this individuals or companies, or how
Yep.
a mixture? Or
so I work predominantly at the top end with major donors. So people who can give. I often joke. I don't get out of bed for less than 100,000 or whatever it may be, just to give an indication that. The type of activity that I'm drawn to is and expert in is individuals, corporates and trusts who can give, let's just say 5, 6, 7 and now even coming up to 8 figures of gifts towards a particular cause that they want to make their impact. And they are driven by a problem that they believe needs to be solved and that they can help solve it.
So they come to you with kind of ideas about the causes that they want to, or is it and how do those ideas come about? I mean, obviously, if you're in a certain place and you can see there's an issue in that place, like context based, if there's a lot of poverty or whatever, how do the issues come about that they want to donate to?
It's usually you'll find that the fundraiser finds the person that they think may be interested in a cause that they hadn't heard about. But sometimes it is, interestingly, the other way around. So when we talk about Cambodian Children's Fund, very interesting that I've not seen a charity that actually gets donors finding CCF. Because of the story of the founder of CCF. And so people come to him and say, I want to help you. You have unearthed this problem.
I see.
And the solution that you are offering is a different model to what we normally see in terms of schools or community putting in education into a poor part of the world. It's often seen as you go and build a school and you send in some teachers and you make it operate and then you just have this. And the founder, a chap called Scott Neeson, has come up with a different solution, which is far more, from the community. And so therefore, ultimately, it'll be more sustainable and the impact it's having is incredible. Donors and rich people are seeing this as individuals and coming to the charity, which isn't usual. It's usually fundraisers and other people going out and taking their solution to people they feel can help.
That's really interesting. They can almost see a model that they see works and inspires them, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. It's exactly what's happening. So it does happen.
Yeah. Really interesting. Yeah, I mean, for us, the Meaningful Business Network and the things that we're interested in is kind of having these ideas of helping community, people, place, economy as well, almost baked into how businesses work, if that makes sense. So these ideas of philanthropy, as you say, have been going on for many years. We've got the round trees in York, haven't we?
Absolutely.
So, this is part of the solution. But wouldn't it be great if all businesses were actually kind of thinking about these things and thinking about these issues at all times and really trying to help them as well as pursuing profit?
Absolutely. I mean, I think many companies over many years have likewise done the same as philanthropists. They've been there. I feel that if coming back to the sort of slightly more philosophical conversation around changing of systems, if we look at, I remember back to my university days and talk, the first ideas around the triple bottom line coming out, and actually measuring your business's success not just purely on profit on your balance sheet, but on the good it was doing socially, and for your people and for the place in which you live. If that was actually something, a KPI in that people believed was important, and I think that this younger generation probably do. They are voting with their expendable money, is to spend their money in organisations that are overtly more socially impactful rather than the ones that aren't. So they will boycott and not go to the ones that aren't. So I think that there could be and should be a really understandable system for the public to know which companies are meeting a triple bottom line as opposed to just a profitable bottom line. And it's almost like that red, amber and green packaging you see on food. They really simplified it. So at a glance, know that you're picking up a ready meal that's got loads of fat in it without actually having to dig into the detail.
Mm-hmm.
I think there could be something similar for organisations to shout about the brilliant stuff they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
I think the other piece of that is I do feel that the balance of power is very much at this point in the corporate's hands. They say, we will come and do something useful for you over here, to the charity, who is sort of almost honour-bound to accept that offer. Just because they are the ones almost making the ask. They're the poorer part, the poorer relation. And I would like to see that more balanced, is that if we look back at this triple bottom line, the charity is helping the business to actually meet its KPIs by providing that social impact and providing the evidence and the measures and the stories that will help that company to say what a brilliant job we're doing, rather than what I feel is very imbalanced, is that the company feels great, aren't we offering all these wonderful volunteering hours, and the charity going, that's great, but I don't really need the volunteering hours. What I need is some cash in the bank right now to actually go and be able to go and help potentially those children who potentially could become your workers of the future.
I think that's so interesting, the balance of power thing, and it's almost like master and servant type relationship, and actually that's wrong, and actually companies should be falling over themselves to be part of something that is helping, rather than we've got something to give away, if that makes sense. I really like it. So what's next for yourself and Fillanthropic Consulting? What are your plans for the future?
So I am back here in Yorkshire, happily, having spent many years in London and Nottingham and other places. And I would love to work with more organisations here in York and Yorkshire to help grow the social impact that people clearly want to make happen, and to help both charities and businesses to do that. But I will continue to work with individual major donors. I love working with the fascinating people who, maybe through their business or just through their personal giving, they make incredible things happen, and they also learn so much on the way. So when I see a major donor so happy to have given away millions of pounds, because it absolutely, just makes them feel like they've done a really, not just a good day's work, but, probably a good few years' work. I know that can happen for everybody at every level of giving, is that you do feel good. So that's what makes me happy. That's what makes my business work, is just doing more of that. So just speaking to people about how we can solve some of society's problems that we're seeing all around us at the moment. That's what I want to help do.
Brilliant, fantastic. Well, thank you, Elspeth, so much for your valuable insights on meaningful business. The things you've been talking about are so important, and I wish you best of luck with all your future plans.
Thank you, Alex. I've got one last line.
Okay.
I'm going to, you asked what sort of my business is about, and on the back of my business card, which I know you have, I do use a quote, and it's from Winston Churchill. I probably shouldn't have said that, as I should have let you guess who it was first. But he said, "We make a living by what we get, but we make a life by what we give." And I think that's probably sums up our conversation this morning.
I love that. Thank you so much.
Pleasure, Alex.